Good afternoon. It's 12 o'clock noon on May 4th. We have a quorum of the board. Everyone except Mike Altman is present. He had an emergency patient come in. Right now, we didn't have anyone sign up for public comment, so we will go right into the superintendent's update. Dr. Jackson?
Thank you, Madam President and Board of Trustees. I am happy to share that today marks the start of Teacher Appreciation Staff Appreciation Week. Districts across our state and nation will take time to say thank you to our teachers, principals, support staff, custodial, nutrition, bus drivers, and maintenance staff. Whether you teach children, work in a cafeteria, or drive buses, everyone is essential to the successful operation of our school district. I believe now more than ever before, the entire nation is taking notice of the critical role educators play in our society. My challenge to everyone is to respectfully ask that as you see teachers and anyone that work in our school system, that you please tell them thank you for their dedication and service to our school district and community. As we enter the seventh week of school closure, our students continue learning from home and our teachers continue to communicate with students while giving feedback on the academic work that is being assigned. Our district's instructional continuity plan includes one more packet distribution, which is scheduled for this coming Thursday, May 7th, from 11 to 1 p.m. and from 5 to 7 p.m. at all campuses. As the board heard at our April 20th meeting, plans are underway to host the end of year activities that our students and staff and community expect. Mr. Chandler and the high school team are working to host a virtual graduation and, if permitted, a full-blown graduation at Cub Stadium scheduled for June 6th. As it stands, our district must be granted permission from the Texas Education Agency as we are still under some orders for social distancing and capacity control. In addition to this, Brenham Junior High staff are working with Mr. Bryant to organize the Watch program and the eighth grade recognition program. More details are coming soon from Mr. Bryant and his staff. We continue to remain operable and are even in the process of completing some projects that were placed on hold during the COVID-19 forced school closure. More details will be coming from Mr. Oschenbeck on this agenda later in the meeting. Last but certainly not least, we continue to plan for the future. There will come a time, and we certainly hope very soon, when the virus is manageable, so our plans for the fall is underway. Our human resources team and principals are busy hiring new staff, and we are doing everything in our power to be prepared for an August school start. We will continue to update the board on the progress of our district, and we'd like to thank the board for their continued support. We also thank our teachers and staff for their dedication, and we certainly thank our parents for their commitment to partnering with us in the education of their students while at home. We realize this has been a challenging time for everyone, but we believe brighter days are coming, and we're going to get through this together. At this time, I will entertain any questions that the board may have of me based on these comments.
Do we have any idea when TEA might start granting permission for the graduations, or is that unknown right now?
That's a good question, Madam President. And last week on our call with the TEA commissioner, we thought we would have gotten information then, but we believe there may be some information come forth this coming week. As I stated in other meetings, superintendents from across the state attend a weekly meeting, a virtual meeting with the TEA Commissioner, Mike Morath. And so we're waiting to hear more information from that. And as soon as I hear that, we will be certain to update the board, Mr. Chandler and his staff, and the community.
Sounds good.
Somewhat of a plan in place for the live situation. Therefore, given how slow
this
the
TEA
TEA
moves
moves
on
on
items,
items,
it
it
could
could
be
be
mid to
mid to
late
late
month
month
before
before
they
they
tell
tell
us
us
about the
about the
requirements
requirements
for a
for
live
live
graduation.
graduation.
I would
I would
suggest
suggest
that
that
if
if
we've got
we
a
got a
plan,
plan,
let's
let's
send it
send
to
it
the
to
TEA
TEA
now
now
So if nothing else, it'll be on the top of their stack when they start reviewing it. Because I just think, given all the crap that our seniors have been through this year, in such an abnormal senior year for them, it is vitally important that they close their high school career like they intended, with a live graduation. And we need to take every step possible to make that happen.
Yes, sir, Mr. Ayler, and we have already done that. In fact, letters and the information that we have had to submit to the TA, we've already done that. We're just now waiting to kind of hear what's going on. We should hear something this week, and if not, we will update the board on that. But as soon as we hear something, we will let the entire committee know and the board.
Any other questions? Okay, next we will hear from Child Nutrition Director Sandra Baxter will present us with this update.
Howdy.
Hello.
So I brought some statistics to share with you today. We have served 841 boxes on April the 22nd, and we served 858 boxes on April 29th. So that really means we've served 16,990 meals in the last 2 weeks worth of delivery. We are all set to serve meals again Wednesday of this week. And I will go ahead and share that we will continue to be feeding during the summer. We are obligated every summer to provide meals a minimum of 30 operating days. Right now, my plan is to serve meals through the Boys and Girls Club and our athletics programs, if that is fitting to Governor Avitt's plans on reopening. If not, we will be continuing probably in the exact same way we're doing right now, where we'll have the drive-through and we'll have the boxes and whatnot. So it's a kind of a plan and wait and plan, see what we get. The other thing I wanted to comment was the Meals to You program that we had applied for. Whereas we were approved for that program, the organization could not guarantee that they could get us going very quickly. And they end their program on our last day of school. And so at this point in time, there's not really an acceptable means to get that going, because it would be ending by the time we would get everybody enrolled. And so that was a great disappointment to us to find that out. But I just did want to share that we are continuing well with what we're doing now. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Oh, go ahead.
There's 5 breakfasts and 5 lunches in every box. So this past week and this current week, we're giving out a whole loaf of bread and a whole pack of lunch meat so that they can assemble sandwiches themselves during the week. We've got 5 bags of potato chips. We've got 9 fruit cups, 4 pieces of fresh fruit. We have 2 cereals. We have powdered donuts, and we have Pop-Tarts, and we have cereal bars. So yeah, quite a few things that the kids like. And I've gotten feedback from parents who said that they're very excited that these are things that the kids can prepare for themselves, because a lot of kids that are receiving these are kids who are eating on their own. So the fact that they can take care of that meal on their own is a welcome help. And because we're giving the whole loaf of bread and because we're giving the whole package of ham, there's really more than what we would need to provide for the 5 lunches. And so it's helpful. Yes, yes, it lasts a whole week.
So in essence, if I have 4 kids in a family and they get a box of food each,
Yes,
that's
4 loaves of bread, 4 packages of ham. And I will say the package of ham is about this thick. So we're talking about 3 inches worth of ham in that packet. There's a lot of food in there. Yeah. They're not going to be hungry. There's probably enough that they could enjoy it as a family.
That's good to hear.
Thanks. Well, you're welcome. I'm glad that we can continue to serve the kids. That's what we're here for. And I think we have a good crew. They were appreciative of their recognition for Lunch Hero Day on Friday. So thank you.
Thank you for everything you're doing.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, I don't want to cut anyone off. Was someone else speaking? Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Next, we have a facilities and summer projects update. Our Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Paul Aschenbeck, will present this update.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just wanted to start by saying we have started to take out the carpet in the high school library. That is underway right now. We are also getting bids for the high school auditorium. If you remember, we did the LED lighting project. Now we notice that the carpet in the auditorium is in bad shape. So we're getting some bids on, when we do the administrative offices, the library, auditorium, all the carpet in the high school would match at this point. Also finalizing some bids on the high school gym floor. If you remember, we approved that a while back. That was going to be the summer project, but we're going to go ahead and move forward to try to get that done as soon as possible. We're also looking at increasing some of our maintenance staff hours to begin some of these summer projects that we have. And the principals have begun bringing staff members up to clean the classrooms so we can start on the floors, waxing those and being ready to go for that. So we're cycling the HVAC units throughout the district to accommodate, to keep the cooler temperatures, I guess, in the classrooms for the teachers. Also on your agenda, one of the big things is the tax office, technology office, child nutrition office building, the roof. I've put in your packet some options there that we have from Parsons Roofing. One of them, option one, was to level out the existing foam roof. There's a foam roof on there. It's probably been on 40 years. And there's cuts and things like that in it. And it's in very dire need of a replacement. When we did our facility study of the junior high, we included that building, and that was #1 priority to get fixed. Option one is just shaving down the blisters that are up there, taking it down as far as they can, and then putting a Duralast roof over the top of it. The problem with that is we could encapsulate some water inside there because it's a foam, and so I asked him what it would cost to strip it down to the decking and then come back with the 50 mil Duralast roof over the top. And that's a $49,000 difference. But I think it's be money well spent to do that. And also, if we go with that option, they will extend our warranty for an additional 5 years. So we get a 20-year warranty at no extra charge. So that is there for your consideration if we want to move on that. I have the proposals there in front of you, option one and option two. The administrative recommendation would be to go with option two to fix it all together at one time while we have the roof off. I'll take any questions at this time if you had any about that. Okay, we will need a motion to pass that, to approve it, if that's the direction we want to go.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve? Okay. I'm not sure who made it, but I could hear that it was made. Was it Raven?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We have a motion made by Kelvin Raven, seconded by, was it Mark? Okay. To approve option 2 with Parsons Commercial Roofing to replace the roof on the tax office building as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Did I miss? I'm sorry, Susan, I couldn't hear you. What did you say?
I didn't know if they said option 2 when it voted, but I guess I missed that.
Okay, is that correct? Option 2 as
Yes, yeah,
recommended?
yes,
Okay,
that was the
all right.
recommendation. Administration was option 2.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Paul. And next, we will have our annual investment and policy review and resolution. And I believe this will be our Director of Business and Finance, Kim Weatherby.
No, you get me again.
Okay. Sorry, we had said it 2 different ways. All right. Thanks, Paul. Go ahead.
Okay, this is our annual investment policy review. It's required that we do this annually, and the purpose of this review is to stay in compliance with the Public Funds Investment Act. Our investments are governed by the Public Investment Act of 1987. Brenham ISD has a written policy and CDA local, which is attached to your attachment there in your board packet. Initially created pool funds group 180-day maturity. This is allowable stated maturity for any other individual investment may not exceed no more than 1 year. All investments comply with our written policy. All district investments are held in the bank depository, certificates of deposit, or one of the approved pools. Monthly investment reports are provided to monitor investment portfolio and market information. This annual investment policy review ensures our compliance, and our annual financial audit insurance as well. Kim Weatherby and myself are our loan officers for our investment officers for the district. Kim Weatherby has completed 5 hours January 16, 2019, and additional 5 hours January 14, 2020 for her to be in compliance to be an investment officer. And I've completed 5 hours May of 2018 and May of 2019. Therefore, I am in compliance, awaiting my training whenever they get back to it. I was supposed to do it again May 2020, so we'll see how that goes. Investment officers Kim Weatherby and Schmick have no personal business relationships with any broker dealers which fall under this statute. The investment officers are not related to any individual seeking the sale of investments to Brenham ISD. The investment reports complying with these provisions are presented monthly. Do you have any questions about the investment review?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution report.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mark Schneider, seconded by Susan Jenkins to adopt a resolution of the board regarding review of the investment program as presented. All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have an update from our Chief Tax Collector on property values from the Comptroller's Office, and Willie Dilworth will present this.
Okay, just give you an update on values. We're going to see a fairly nominal year in growth this year. About half of the growth is going to be new money, but it's still going to be a pretty small year compared to some years we've had recently. With the new legislation and things like that, Kim and I are just trying to get wrapped around how Senate Bill 2 and House Bill 3 is going to work. we're trying to figure out tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 numbers and things like that. This will be the first year that these values are used for this year's tax rate. Historically, it's been this year's value goes to next year. So this is going to be a learning year in a lot of ways. But anybody got any questions for me?
What a great year to have a learning year.
Yeah, it's been a banner year. We haven't gotten totally wrapped around. I've got a formula on my desk that I finally got from the comptroller on how to calculate tier 1 and tier 2 numbers. And it actually goes tier 1 through tier 10. And there's different things that go into those calculations, but at least we don't have to worry about all of those.
So
Yeah.
would you say that we're in line with what other districts and other communities are facing right now across the state?
Probably so. I think that, some of them have seen more growth than what we think there has been. And they're going to have a tough summer.
Any questions? Okay, thank you for the update.
All right, thank you.
Next, we will have a budget workshop, and our Director of Business and Finance, Kim Weatherby, will lead this.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Well, we are busy planning for this upcoming school year, but we're also looking at our numbers for the current year to see how we're going to finish off. On the first slide, it talks about our state revenues, our refined ADA. I ran these numbers as of the last day of spring break, since that's the last day we were in school. And you can see that our ADA continues to increase, and we've seen a slight increase over the past few years. And so for that, we're very fortunate. Some of this is going to change because there's a lot of things that have to happen in PEAMS right now, where you're changing the 6 weeks due to the COVID. But those are the numbers we're looking at right now. The next slide you see is with career and technology. And as you can see, our numbers have increased pretty significantly this year. This is a result of 58.40 FTEs, or because we are now allowed to count junior high for some of these CTE classes. And you can see we're up 72 FTEs compared to last year. We actually budgeted for 400 FTEs because we knew we were going up, but we went up, as you can see, more than what we had projected. State revenues for special education. Our numbers this year have increased from snapshot, but you can see our FTEs have actually decreased a little bit, and a lot of this is a result of the weighted funding. On the next slide, you can see the different weights for some of the instructional arrangements for special ed. Next, we can talk about state compensatory. This was overhauled with House Bill 3 this year. We always counted our free and reduced meals, and now they're looking at your address. And so this was a new way of doing things. You can see this is taken straight out of our summary of finance, which is what us finance directors looked at to see what our state funding is. And you can see the different tiers. There's 5 different tiers, and the higher the tier, the more weighted the funding is for it. And you can tell exactly how much money is brought into each of the campuses and where the tiers are. And so you can see that we're getting almost $4.3 million for state compensatory, and of that, we have to spend 55% of it on that program. The next slide talks about some of the programs that we use for state compensatory. You have your credit recovery, your DAEP, content mastery, instructional technologists and specialists. One of the newer programs in the district is AVID, and we use that with our state compensatory funds. Reading specialists, interventionists, and aides. State revenue for bilingual, you can see that they are exiting more of these as the numbers decrease. And you can look at the weight, it's 0.10, where you were seeing some of the other weights for the programs, 1.35 or 4. So this weight's not a enormous weight. The next program we have is dyslexia. and it also has a weight of 0.1, and this is something that was new, that they are now giving us a weighted funding for. They are actually projecting our numbers to go up to 260 this year.
Why was dyslexia numbers grow like that?
There's more kids being identified. And I went back because most of these charts I was showing you back to 2017, and they didn't track it back then on the.
And why was identity going down?
Well, I question that, and that's because they're exiting the kids out of the program. So in dyslexia, the numbers, we pay for a lot of the expenses with dyslexia teachers out of our state compensatory because dyslexia, the weight of 0.1 doesn't generate all that much money. And so, but this is a new revenue source that we had this year, and more kids are being tested and they continue to grow. So that's the numbers they gave me that they're expecting to have for the 2021 school year. The state revenues for transportation allotment, I asked Paul the other day if he had heard anything about this. Normally we collect $500,000 for the transportation allotment, and they have to do a report at the end of the year telling them how many miles they're traveling, and obviously those buses aren't traveling many miles right now. And so hopefully they'll hold us harmless because of this. If not, then there'll be a reduction in that state allotment. Local revenues. Currently, we have a tax rate of 0.97, and for maintenance and operations, and debt service is 0.08 for a total tax rate of 1.05. Last year, when we set the tax rate, as you know, it was compressed, and the state is continuing to compress. If what Willie's telling us about values are going to pretty much stay at the average, the tax rate would go down to 0.9164 plus the 4 golden pennies that we have. And so if we also have an additional penny that we can decide on this year, and that would put our tax rate just slightly below what it is right now for maintenance and operations. If our values go up higher than the state average at around 6%, then the base would be 0.8993. And so we are now going to receive sometime in August or the middle of July, the first part of August, a request from TEA to give them the values. And so in turn, we submit that to TEA, and they're going to basically tell us what the tax rate is for Tier 1 that we're able to have. And so if you remember, nothing's changed. We can always have a higher proposed tax rate. You can only go down on it. So we will probably be setting a proposed tax rate before we have this number. There's a chance that will happen. But we'll just make sure we have room to go down on it. And so this is all new for us this year. As if COVID isn't enough, that we're still dealing with this. And there's just a lot of uncertainty going on. Federal revenues, we receive money for schools, health, and related services. This is something that generates about $800,000 from services that special ed provides. And some of these services they're not able to provide now, so we won't be able to maximize all those revenues. MAC is a smaller thing that we look at nurses, and we receive money that we can in turn spend on nursing supplies. The stimulus funds that everybody's talking about is the CARES Act. They have a fund for us to use already. They're telling us how we can use it, but we don't know how much we're receiving at this point. So hopefully this will be supplemental to the funds that we're already receiving and won't be replacing other things. Last year there was a lot going on with it being a legislative session, and there's still some things that are being finalized from the legislative session, but there's just a lot more uncertainty going on this year. Collections rate, we've always budgeted around 98% collections rate. We're not going to see that this year. And so we're going to have to account for that. We finished the year strong with our average daily attendance, but what do we budget for this upcoming year? There's a lot of
Right.
unknown things, and we just need to be conservative and plan accordingly. And so we'll be working with you guys through the budget process and getting your thoughts and having recommendations. And so we'll just make sure we communicate and do what we can through this difficult situation. Are there any
Have y'all talked about the budgeting for the collection rate that you are anticipating, or is it still too early?
Willie and I've had a discussion about it, kind of what we're thinking. But I don't have preliminary values yet, but I've talked to the city too, and it's just going to be difficult to plan on what we normally get. 98%
Right.
is going to be too high. It may be somewhere between 90, 94%, somewhere in there. But we're going to have to be much more conservative on that number we use.
Right.
Average daily attendance now for school going on there, how do we extrapolate on that average daily attendance?
Well, they will continue receiving funding because of the instructional that's taking place at home. Yes. There will be some waivers that Steve will be bringing to you at a later time, but the funding should continue as long as at-home instruction continues.
The possible stimulus funds, you said they said what we should spend it on, what things they're proposing are possible ways to spend stimulus funds.
Well, a lot of it, what they were mentioning is kind of what we spend our title funds for. There was some emotional counselors that you could possibly use. There was talk of if you were doing at-home instruction, you could use some of these funds to do that, and hardware, and mainly trying to help with the kids that don't have the resources. Um, so, but I mean, it was like a list of 12 things. I mean, I'm sure it's going to evolve. But I was pleasantly surprised to find that. They're using Fund 266. That was something we used about 10 years ago when we had the state fiscal stabilization funds. And so I was like, oh, I've been here long enough to remember when that happened.
Maybe remediation.
Yes, there are remediations. Dr. Jackson has been talking about us possibly starting school a little bit earlier for some of the students, and this is certainly something we could use those funds for. You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much, Kim.
You're welcome.
Okay, at this time, it is 12:32 p.m. According to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551.074, Personnel Matters, we will go into executive session. All final votes, actions, or decisions will be taken in open meeting.
Audio is now live.
Okay. It is at 1:01 p.m. We will adjourn with no further business to come before the board. Thank you and have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you all.